Hi, this is Dale O'Shields. Thanks for joining me for episode number 1 of our Church Builder podcast. So glad that you're part of this, and very grateful for the opportunity of having with me today for our very first episode, Pastor Robert Barriger, who is the senior pastor of Camino de Vida in Lima, Peru, friend of mine. Robert, we've been friends for 35 years and been able to do life and ministry together, our families. It's been such a joy to have long-term relationships, nothing like that. And you've challenged me along the way, and hopefully I've bugged you a little bit along the way as well. As a part of that journey. And also with us, Taylor Barriger today, his son, who's also part of the lead team there at Camino de Vida, and a multi-campus church, an amazing church of literally thousands of people in Peru, and also impacting literally the nation, the continent, not only the nation of Peru, but the continent of South America and Central America through something called Hacienda Iglesia, that wonderful outreach of doing ministry to churches and pastors, revitalizing churches literally around the world. So welcome to Maryland in the midst of winter time here. Welcome to the cold.
It is cold, yes.
Yeah, looking outside the window here to the ice on the trees, and that's not exactly what you have in Lima right now, but we thought we would expose you to God's country where the 4 seasons truly do exist. So,
it's the ice on the tree is pretty, but in Peru it's summertime right now and not here.
Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in. Well, again, it's so good to have you guys with us. And as a part of this podcast, our vision for this podcast really is to provide just conversations, opportunities to talk about ministry values, things that impart life and strength. As I said on episode 0, as we started to introduce the podcast in our first edition of that, our 0 edition, I talked about the importance of just having voices in your life that bring encouragement and wisdom along the way. We need wise voices and experienced voices that help us to be strong for long, to make sure that we're going to run this long race. And Pastor Robert, you've been pastoring there for a long time, 35 years there in Peru alone, and 40 years in ministry. And one of the things that we've talked about before is you have a unique way of thinking about decision-making in ministry and how to go about, because really ministry is all about making decisions at times, decision after decision after decision, many times that are affecting people's lives and people's future. And the question becomes, how do we get better at making decisions? And one of the things that you've taught me and that we've talked about as well, and I want to get Taylor's perspective on this also, is that they're actually filters that you can put in place when it comes to making a decision that actually enable you to make better decisions and to actually make more right decisions than wrong decisions. And so, Taylor, you've been exposed to these filters, and talk to us about this idea of filters and what they are and what they mean to you, and then we'll get into some specific elements of it.
It's so often you're confronted with you don't know what to do. In a moment of a whirlwind, you're kind of blinded by, you can't see ahead, but a filter is like that control panel that helps you fly without having to see through the windshield.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
And what I love about his decision-making process is that he has values, convictions, and every moment he lives, he will filter those decisions through this process. And what has been so valuable for me, I'm part of his team. He's my pastor, and for our church is that he has like a list of 50, 60 different filters through which he makes a decision. He gives it to us, and we can end up making the same decisions on the same values in different circumstances.
Wow.
And that just makes him reproducible. We don't depend on his ability to reach us, but we can just actually replicate his culture, his DNA throughout the whole organization. And to me, it's a game changer.
Yeah, because you're able to think in a way that provides a structure, a mindset. When you're making a decision, this is how we approach it. You're not just saying, how would Robert approach it? You're thinking about what value do we add here. It's not just trying to think like he thinks. It's thinking from the standpoint of the value system that he uses to make decisions. Is that right?
Yeah, very much so. And it's very very objective in its way. So you can almost remove emotions from it and go, okay, what is the wise decision here?
So in ministry, in church ministry, we are, as I said earlier, we're always making decisions.
Always
making, all kinds of decisions. again, as we said, a lot of decisions are affecting people's lives very significantly and trying to help them grow and be the people that we want to be, administrate ministry programs, etc. And so we want to make sure that we use wisdom when we make decisions. And Robert, your filters, you have a whole list of them. We're going to talk about a few of them over several episodes. But let's pull out the first one. What would you say the first thing that you'd want people to understand when it comes to filters that help you make good decisions? Frame that up for us and then talk about that first one.
Well, first of all, it's based on Proverbs, where the book of Proverbs says, wisdom builds a house.
Good. Mm-hmm.
So if wisdom builds the house, bad decisions can tear it down.
Good.
People that make the wrong choices, the wrong decisions. And we all know those people that seem to always make the wrong choice. They're always making.
Yeah, I've been there many times. So it's like, how did I make another mistake, right? So,
yeah. And we know a few people that seems like, gosh, even in a hard situation, they're always making a good decision.
Yeah.
So I call them filters because if you run the process of making that decision through these filters, then you will make better choices, better decisions. And I explain it with this. My number one filter, it's the first filter, explains all the other filters. But if you do this one filter, I promise your life will be better.
Wow. It's one thing.
It's one thing, just one filter. Now there's others, but this is the most important one. And the filter, I call it the honor God above all.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me explain it. It's based on the book of Daniel. Now, Daniel, when he was just a young boy, like 13, 14 years old at the oldest, was taken away from his country, away from his family, away from his culture, his language, even given a new religion.
Wow.
When he went to Babylon. But there was this thing in him, excellence, a bright young man, that he was brought into Nebuchadnezzar's court to become one of Nebuchadnezzar's wise men. And yet the Bible says that Daniel made a decision not to eat the king's meat.
Right.
Now, how can a young 13-year-old boy make a decision that could have enormous consequences?
Right.
It's huge.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Life or death consequences potentially, right?
Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar he was known for, pretty serious consequences if his wise men didn't serve him well. And his choice was, Daniel made that decision. Or we go 2 chapters beyond that, where you have Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Right.
Daniel's companions, who were also taken out of Israel. Nebuchadnezzar, and I always find this an interesting story because he made a new god.
Right.
Sounds like today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, made God in his image. But anyway, he made a new god and made an order, an edict, that everybody has to bow and worship my God. And he even gave the punishment. If you don't, we're going to heat up a furnace and you're going to be thrown into the fire.
Right.
So the consequence for not bowing was pretty intense. Historians say there could have been 100,000 people there when the musicians played and the order was given. They all bowed except 3 young men.
Except 3. That's amazing.
Yeah, 3 young men. So how could they make such an important decision, a life decision that could have gone very wrong? How could they make that decision? Well, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had made another decision before they made that.
Wow, that's good. Yeah.
So if you make this other decision first, all other decisions go through that. Their first decision was, we want to honor God in everything we do. So to Daniel, can I eat that food that was offered to that idol and honor God? And Daniel felt in his heart, I can't. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, can we bow down to that idol and honor God? No, because we believe God is bigger than that. He created the heavens and the earth. And so we just can't go there. So that filter, let's bring it down to reality, to you or to me. The question is this: can I go there and honor God? Can I see that and honor God? Can I say that and honor God? Can I listen to that and honor God?
Wow.
Awesome.
My goodness.
And if you can, do it. If you can't, don't.
Yep.
Simple as that.
And it makes a hard decision very simple. Can I do this and still honor God? If you can, do it. But if in your heart you know that's not honoring to God, then just don't.
So in some sense, just in the moral sense, just talking about moral decisions that you make, and just as for the everyday believer and for all of us, even in ministries, we're making moral decisions. The first question comes up: if I do this, if I say this, if I think this, if I approach this situation this way, the number one question before I do any other question is answered. What is the honor God process here? What at the end of the day is going to honor God in the decision that I make?
Or can I be a part of that conversation and listen to what they're saying?
Good, yes.
If they're talking about another person, if they're talking in ways that aren't pleasing to God, as people in the world tend to do.
Right.
Can I listen to that and honor God? Can I see that? Can I hear that? Can I go there? Can I watch that? And if you can, do it and still honor God. If you can't, then don't.
But that also goes beyond. It goes into, can I lead this way and honor God in the way I'm leading? The marketplace plays the game a certain way, but God calls us to play it a different way, His way.
Well, yeah. Can you think about, here were those? Let's go back to the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego for a moment. I'm sure there was tremendous pressure on them to bow. If you got 100,000 people bowing and you're the only three that are not bowing,
you'll get attention.
Yeah, you get attention and you get pressure as well. And yet they had this filter. They knew before. It wasn't really a decision about so much what Nebuchadnezzar had asked them not to do or do. It was the fact that they had chosen a bigger, they'd already made a choice in a bigger way to honor God.
And if you listen to their speech, they were not dishonoring to Nebuchadnezzar.
They really weren't. I just actually read it recently. They were not. They called him Your Majesty the King, and they were appropriately honorable to him. But yet they had a higher principle that they were operating according to.
I'm sorry, my king. We cannot do that because we believe in a bigger God.
So how do we bring this into church life, both from the standpoint of obviously we as leaders embracing this ourselves, but also helping people to understand this? Because here's one of the challenges that I think we have at times, and that's to try to help people embrace morality without succumbing to legalism, okay? And legalism is you got a bunch of rules and regulations. I follow this, I do this, I'm going to make God happy. I have to check off all the boxes of how I'm living my life. Whereas Jesus seemed to teach us at a different perspective, a morality that goes beyond ticking off the boxes of just right or wrong. So draw that into this comparison between legalism and approaching your morality the way you've described.
Well, if you have an honor culture, which can be another filter, an honor filter, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were not dishonorable to the king. Can you imagine some of the legalistic people today? Like, whatever king, how can you call that a god? They could have been very legalistic. Daniel could have said, I'm not going to eat that. It's been offered to idols that mean nothing. He was still honoring to the king. He just said, others can, I won't.
Others can, I won't. But that's a great principle, isn't it?
That's beautiful.
Others can, I won't. Others might be able to do this, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
He had this thing that was governing him on the inside that was more than just a set of rules and regulations or religious laws. It was something from the heart level.
And history is always made by the ones not that follow the crowd, but the ones that are willing to stand up on a principle.
Wow.
Okay.
History always made by principled people.
Principled people. It's not made by somebody that just goes with what's popular, with what is happening, but there's a principle. And Daniel's simple principle of, I'm going to honor God. And he ended up being the third most powerful man in the nation.
Exactly.
And used greatly by God for many, many things, including some of the prophecy that brought us to Jesus.
So Taylor, let me throw this to you because you're in the church environment. Your dad's the senior pastor, but you have a very significant role there with him. When it comes to helping sort of transfer this into the culture of your church and decision-making processes in the culture of the church, this filter, have you seen this work there in your church, and how do you communicate this with your team leaders and the church environment?
What I like about it is it's actually very open-handed. It's not heavy-handed. It's open-handed leadership, where it's not, hey, it's this way or the highway. It's truly him challenging us, saying, hey, have you sought the Holy Spirit on this? What is God telling you? And there's a verse in 2 Timothy 3, I think it's 3:5. It says, having the appearance of, but denying the power.
Yes. Appearance of godliness, but denying the power thereof, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and honestly, the power is seek the Lord, and you'll get the answers. It's not a set of rules, regulations on you. It's the Holy Spirit in you, and so his challenge is, hey, that decision, make it, but have you sought the Lord on it? Because if you can honor God, if you seek Him and honor Him and make that decision, go for it.
Right.
And so it just shifts the whole weight from Him having to manage my decision to, hey, the Holy Spirit's going to manage you, but you have to give your life to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I think there's, when it comes to training, discipling, growing people in their faith, there's a tendency to, if we're not careful, to become God's deputies and God's enforcement officers. We go around enforcing things with people. But what we really want is we want people to have an experience in their heart that at the end of the day, what they want more than anything else is to honor God with their lives. And I think it takes me back to what Jesus said when he was asked, what's the most important commandment of all? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for taking some time today to talk about this filter. And we're going to come back again and talk about some more filters in our next episode. But I hope this has been a blessing to you. Remember, the most important filter for any decision you'll ever make in your life is the honor God filter. Does it honor God? Thanks for joining us. Look forward to talking to you again next time in the next episode of the Church Builder Podcast.